the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm for you. Can't wait. Let's go.
Good morning and welcome. It is.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I can hear you, Mo. How are you, sir?
I can't hear you. Something's wrong with mine.
You can't hear me? Well, we'll let you figure that out while I talk to the people real quick over here, Mo. As I was saying, good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. And we are happy that you are able to make us part of your morning routine. We are live on Facebook this morning. We are live over on YouTube. So happy to have you here with us this morning as Mo goes through and figures out some of his technical difficulties on his side. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how you doing with the audio over there, sir?
We finally got it right. I think we're good to go now.
That's what I like to hear. How's your Friday morning treating you, Mo?
Well, besides the audio, I'm doing great.
Mo, so let's start with this. I saw this pop up last week, and we didn't really talk about it, and then it popped up again this week, so now we're going to talk about it. The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills organization is a unique organization in that they really truly embrace, I'm going to be nice, I'm going to say the uniqueness of their fan base. And I understand that every fan base is different, and I understand that the word fan is derived from fanatic. So there's a certain element when it comes to being a fan of a particular sports team. But I will also say that there are not many other sports fan bases out there that are known for putting themselves through flaming tables and other such shenanigans that Buffalo Bills fans are known for, but I digress. The Buffalo Bills are in the news again because, in case you didn't know, Mo, it snows in Buffalo. Right. And when it snows in Buffalo and you're playing playoff football in Buffalo, someone's got to remove the snow from your stadium so you can not only play a football game there, but so you can get 40,000 plus fans into said stadium. So last week, Buffalo caught slack because they came out and they said, hey, listen, we got an issue here. We're about to get a nor'easter coming in our way. We're going to need help burying the stadium. We are going to pay fans $20 an hour. Bring your shovels. Come out bundled up. We'll buy you lunch. We need help. And, of course, the Buffalo Bills fan base jumped all over that opportunity to help their team, right? Because that's kind of what this fan base is about, right? They're all about doing whatever it takes to be a part of it, to be a part of the Bills' success. And that shifted a little bit because the game got postponed. There was more time. Fans still have to bring shovels because they dug their own seats out. But Buffalo was cool in that sense because Buffalo basically said, bring a shovel to the game. You got to dig your seat out, but you can sit wherever you want. There is no assigned seating for this playoff game because the stadium is still buried underneath snow. So if you bring a shovel and you got a ticket, you can sit wherever you would like as long as you dig out your seat. Pretty cool thing, Mo.
That's an amazing thing.
But now you fast forward to the Kansas City Chiefs game, and once again, there is snow. Once again, the stadium is buried. And once again, Buffalo is calling on its fans, $20 an hour. We'll give you pizza or lunch or whatever the case might be to come dig out the stadium. And other fan bases and other people around football are looking a little side-eyed at the Buffalo Bills, Mo. So I ask you this. Is Buffalo taking advantage of their fan base here? Because I look at it and I say, $20 an hour, that's pretty cheap labor because I don't know what it would cost to hire a company to come out and dig out the Buffalo Bills stadium. but I would imagine it would be a pretty hefty price. And I would imagine the Buffalo Bills didn't take that price, whatever it is, and say, hey, let's just give that money to our fans, and it's an apples to apples comparison. I would imagine that they're saving money by doing this, and that's why they're doing it. And if I look at it from that point of view, Mo, I kind of have an issue with it, because now it's no longer, hey, we were going to pay 80 grand to hire this company, and they were going to come out and spend the entire day here, and they were going to do this. But instead, let's hire, 200 fans, and we'll take that 80 grand and divide it amongst them. And that's where we're getting the hourly rate from. I don't think that's what happened. I think they're saying, hey, you work at McDonald's here in Buffalo, you make $16 an hour, we'll give you 20 to come shovel for us. It's better than working at McDonald's for an hour, right? Like, I think that's how they're kind of coming up with it. And for me, it just doesn't sit right. I'm not going to die on that hill, Mo. But for me, I look at it, I'm kind of like, I think you're taking advantage of a fan base that would literally die to help the Buffalo Bills get back to a Super Bowl. So I don't know. I think it could have been handled better. Personally, I don't like it. I don't like $1 billion, and that's what they are. They are a $1 billion franchise. I don't like $1 billion companies paying the people that buy tickets and pay to be consumers of their product $20 an hour to come do manual labor. I have an issue with that.
And I actually see your point, and I agree where you're coming from. My guess is, though, you hit on it when you outlined, are they kind of taking advantage of a rampant fan base that they would die if they thought that it helped the Bills win a Super Bowl? Absolutely, to a degree. And I would say, because that fan base is how it is and how ravaged and rampant they are, they feel like they're all like a community, right? It's not just that we're a fan base, that we're all a community. So my guess is, while I agree with you're saying, my guess is the way they think, they would say something like, well, he didn't know us. He didn't know
Right.
Bills Nation and how close we
Right.
are. Like, we're not being taken advantage of. We're one. This is how we do things for each other. So while I love where you're coming from, because you're talking about, are they being taken advantage of? My guess is, because of their mindset, they're going to go like, no one's taking advantage of us. We would have done this anyway. We would have done it for free, right? Like I feel like that would be their response. So I'm with you, but at the same time, my guess is they're probably 100% fine with the situation.
Mo, I could look back in history, and there's a couple of groups of people that were known for drinking Kool-Aid that all thought they were part of something and equal based on something as well.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and that didn't work out so well.
It did not work out so well. So, and you're right. If I ever put that out into a Buffalo forum, I would be told that I don't understand that they are part of it and they are one. And that almost, I feel that almost further proves my point, Mo, because you're not. You're not. You are a consumer. They are a business. You buy their product. You are a fan of their team. Mo, I don't think there is anything the Miami Dolphins could do unless they hired me to work for the team and I had some sort of an impact on the team operations. I'm not talking about I'm selling hot dogs or t-shirts at the stadium. All right. Unless I have something to do with the actual team and players, I'm not a part of the Miami Dolphins organization. Just like no matter how much you love San Francisco, you are not a part of the San Francisco organization.
I'm a consumer.
Unless they hire you to start being a scout or you start doing things directly with players, you are not part of that.
Well,
you are
simply
a fan of that. And Buffalo fans, I'm sorry. I don't care how much you shovel. I don't care if you make 60 or 80 bucks to shovel out that stadium and they give you free pizza. You are not a part of the Buffalo Bills, and you are being taken advantage of, and I'm sorry. But I'm glad that you don't look at it that way. I'm glad that you're going to look at it like if the Bills beat the Chiefs this weekend, part of that was because of you, because you shoveled out the stadium.
And that will be the message sent that that's because of you. On the flip side, should they lose to the Chiefs, they're going to go home going, we shoveled out that stadium for nothing.
For nothing. For absolutely nothing.
Right.
Mo, things are picking up in Hot Atlanta. Second interview coming up with the Atlanta Falcons and free agent head coach Bill Belichick. It's looking more and more with each passing day that Atlanta might actually be the spot that Bill Belichick lands in. And if you listen to his comments or the reports from earlier in the week, he wants to go to a team that is a project. He wants to go to a team that is considered underrated or underachieving. I think Atlanta checks off all of those boxes. I do think they are a project. I do think they underachieved this past season. I don't think they're going to have the highest of expectations with or without Bill Belichick going into next season. So I think Atlanta does check off all those boxes, Mo. But I struggle to look at Atlanta because, and I'm sure they're going to address it, but man, to go to an organization where there is zero clarity at the quarterback position, that scares me. And I'm sure they have a plan, and I'm sure all options are on the table, and I'm sure if everything falls as it's supposed to, they're going to have a different quarterback next season, and that quarterback is going to be better than Desmond Ridder, and they are going to do whatever they can to put the best option under center in Atlanta. But Mo, we both know how sports works, and oftentimes, unless you have the number one pick in the draft, plan A doesn't always go the way it's supposed to.
Agreed.
And neither do plans C, D, and E. So you're looking at this and you're thinking, okay, well, they weren't that great last year, but they won a handful of games. So they don't necessarily have the draft equity to jump up into the top three positions in the draft to get one of the top three quarterbacks. So now what are we doing? Are we hoping things fall right on draft night and you can get the third or fourth best quarterback in the draft? Are you hoping we can trade for Justin Fields? Are you hoping that it's going to be someone like a Kirk Cousins and that if Minnesota doesn't want him, you're going to be a viable option? Or if Minnesota does want him, you can lure him away from Minnesota. I mean, all the things I just said, Mo, if they come to fruition, great. But none of those are necessarily guarantees. Because if the Bears go Caleb Williams, the first round pick, and they're going to trade Justin Fields, great. We already know there's like 4 or 5 teams that would be interested in him.
For sure.
So now you're competing. You're competing with a handful of other teams. Who's going to give up the most for Justin Fields? That's not a sure thing. If you're trying to trade up in the draft and you're hoping that things kind of fall a certain way and guys are still left on the board, well, you gotta hope somebody works with you. Now you gotta hope that another team who also wants that quarterback isn't going to go up and jump ahead of you. Sure, it could work, but it's a 50-50 proposition, I feel. If you're looking at someone like Kirk Cousins, well, we don't really know what Minnesota wants to do with Kirk Cousins. What we do know is what they have at quarterback right now isn't that good, Mo. So it looks like they probably want Kirk Cousins back. So that's not a sure proposition. So I don't know. I don't know what the quarterback future looks like in Atlanta, but I do know it's not a slam dunk. So that concerns me for whatever head coach goes there next, much less what it looks like could be Bill Belichick.
And your concern is warranted. But I will say this, because Coach Belichick put it out there what he wanted in terms of a team that is a project that he wants to help develop and help learn how to win or teach how to win, I still think Atlanta fits the bill. The quarterback will always be an issue. But like you said, with their quarterback turmoil that they had over the course of this season, they still won a handful of games despite that flaw. There's talent on the offensive side of the football. They've got some playmakers on defense. And you're right. A lot of teams are going to vie for the services of Justin Fields should he become available. And I'm sure they do have a plan B and C. But you're right again. There's no way to know if any of the plans will fall right into where you want them to. I will say this though. Let's assume the norm in that Coach Belichick does go to Atlanta. They don't acquire a veteran bridge quarterback like a Kirk Cousins or even a Russell Wilson. They basically go with who's on the roster. And I'm sure they'll add pieces on both sides of the ball, but that's who they go with. Could Coach Belichick make that a team? Let's say they're a 500 team. Yeah, they weren't far from being a 500 team, despite the flaws at the quarterback position. And should he make them a 500 team in year one? I don't think the Atlanta fan base would be disappointed. I think they know what they have, and I think, like he said, if he's going there with the thought process of a project, well, a project is in year one we're not winning the Super Bowl. In year one, what we want to do is show improvement off of the previous season. So to me, his target is whatever whatever we do, we're going to be better record wise than last season, and then going forward, try to prove upon that. So I think even if he doesn't get targeted players, they're going to be upgraded because he's there. They're going to be upgraded. Hey, I'll give you a crazy take. Because it's Atlanta in the location, why wouldn't he make a phone call and have his buddy Saban come and be a defensive coordinator? It's not. I know people go, no way. No, he retired from college football, and he didn't have as much success as a head coach as in pro football, and he won't be the head coach. But if he can become the defensive coordinator, they have worked together before, and they win games. That will be another addition to his resume as a head football coach. So I'm with you on the quarterback is why I would pause, but at the same time, because I've already put it out there that I'm not trying to win the Super Bowl in year one, and I know what we have on both sides of the ball. I think it'll work out fine. I still think he's the right coach for that situation.
Mo, I didn't think I'd be having a conversation with you saying that the feud between RG3 and Jay Gruden is the feud that I think we all deserve, because this came out of nowhere and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere anytime soon. And it has broken down literally to Jay Gruden tweeting out videos of RG3 racing pigeons. That's where this feud has transpired into. That's the level of petty we have reached when we are tweeting out videos of a grown man racing a bird and taking shots at him and telling him to go race birds. But let's circle back, all right? So during the Philadelphia Eagles playoff loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jay Gruden, former Washington Commanders head coach, Jay Gruden, former NFL executive. He was on social media taking shots at the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was basically saying that the Eagles don't know what they're doing and that he would never allow a quarterback like Jalen Hurts to be in a position where he isn't protected because he was blitzed all night. They couldn't stop the blitz. Hurts was taking a beating back there, and Gruden had an issue with how they were allowing, in his opinion, Jalen Hurts to be hit on the repeated blitz packages. Well, Robert Griffin III, who played under Coach Gruden, Jay Gruden, saw that tweet, and he had a side eye, and that's all it was. He took a picture of himself, gave him a little side eye look, and he responded to the tweet in the picture, because RG3 played for Jay Gruden in Washington on teams that were not very good, and RG3 took a pounding at the quarterback position. So clearly RG3's stance was, you would never allow your quarterback to take a pounding like that? Do you remember me? Because I was there, and I know that you did. And we thought it was funny when it happened. Funny little back and forth. We thought that is where it was going to die. But oh no, Mo. Oh no. These two are the gift that keeps on giving, because they have literally been going back and forth at each other on social media all throughout the week. RG3 has drug up this story about how Gruden told him to put a teammate on blast during a press conference, and RG3 didn't want to, but Gruden told him that you need to. I'm your head coach. You're the leader of this team. Go do it. RG3 did it, and then Jay Gruden basically didn't have his back and made it look like RG3 was a bad person for doing that. Gruden's talking about how, RG3 is out there racing birds, and he was never actually prepared to play quarterback in the NFL, and that's why you saw what you saw. RG3 is talking about how Jay Gruden told him to his face, I don't know how to coach a quarterback that can run and throw the way that you do. So RG3 is saying, who wasn't prepared? Jay, you say I wasn't prepared. You told me to my face you didn't know what to do with my talent. But yeah, I wasn't the one that was prepared. And like I said, now we're tweeting bird videos. Like I said, Mo, I didn't know that this is the feud that I wanted, but now it's the feud that I need to keep on going, because once you start sending videos of another man racing pigeons, I'm all in. I am all in for this level of petty, and I can't wait to see where we go next.
And a lot of sports fans might not remember when RG3 was in Washington, he lit the league on fire, right? As a rookie. He was a raw rookie, but he was the hottest thing in football for the better part of the season. And as I watched him play, my concern at the time was, that's great. He's incredibly athletic, but my worry is that he's going to get hurt. Because he took off too often. That basically became their offense. Maybe Jay Gruden didn't coach him because their best offensive play seemed to be he dropped back to pass. He breached the first wall of the defenders, make somebody miss, and then make a spectacular run downfield. And what it ended up happening is, I think it was against the Ravens, somebody took out that knee.
Yep.
And to be quite frank, he was never the same player again. It was literally over before you thought it would be over. And so, look, you can say he was raw and he had some developing to do, which I think nobody would disagree. But you were the coach at the time, and the coach is supposed to have the quarterback's back. You're supposed to be developing him through the course of the season. And I watched him throughout the season because, like I said, he was the hottest ticket in the league at the time. And I didn't think he was coached. I watched their games, and I had the same feeling with him as I had with Michael Vick in Atlanta. I think Michael Vick dropped back, and then he just took off and did whatever he wanted to because they didn't know how to coach him. So I think RG3 is right from that standpoint. At the same time, as an analyst, they do have RG3 on ESPN. I think I saw him race against a hawk. Like it was like a 40-yard dash. Matter of fact, I think he's raced, if you could probably look it up on YouTube, I think he's raced various animals. And I'm not sure that's his idea. That might be ESPN's idea. It's a college game day kind of thing. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of entertaining. Although I guess if you look at it another way, it could be a little bit demeaning. I mean, they don't have Lee Corso running against nobody. I'm just saying. And no disrespect to Lee Corso, who's a great college analyst. So I think both men have cases to be made, but I think RG3's are more serious points. Jay Gruden wasn't a good coach, and Jay Gruden wasn't ready to be a coach. He didn't know what the hell he was doing.
What does Jay Gruden do on TV?
Is he on TV?
Exactly. That's all I'm saying. It's all I'm saying.
Right.
Whether he's racing Falcons or he's racing pigeons, those paychecks cash the same. They cash the same for RG3. And I don't know what Jay Gruden does. Maybe he is a very successful man right now. All right. Maybe he is. Maybe he's making more than he'd be making at ESPN. I literally have no idea what Jay Gruden does right now. Well, but the odds are
you don't coach.
He's not making ESPN money. I just feel like the odds are he's not making ESPN money. I could be wrong.
I'm with you.
If I had to guess one way or the other, I'm going to say he's not making ESPN money. Mo, the other name that has popped up in this head coaching search for the Atlanta Falcons, aside from Bill Belichick, is a Bill Belichick disciple, if you will, in Coach Vrabel, former head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He apparently is on the Falcons' radar. They would like to speak with him. He is also on the radar of the Seattle Seahawks. I think Coach Vrabel would make a terrific coach in Seattle. And I am actually all on board with them hiring him over bringing back Dan Quinn in Seattle. If they're looking for, and again, I don't know why. I don't know what more data they need. I don't know how many more games they need to watch. But when you're going from a defensive coach for over a decade, and I know there was some success there, and I'm not going to say a bad thing about Pete Carroll because I love that man. But when you are going from a defensive head coach and a defensive mentality for the better part of a decade and a half, and now you have a chance to reset, why are you only looking at defensive head coaches, Mo? Like, I don't understand it. Dan Quinn, I know Vrabel's a great coach. I don't got much to say about Dan Quinn, but Vrabel's a great coach, and I think he could find success in Seattle. But I find it interesting that in a league that is driven by offense, on a team where you don't have a quarterback, I'm sorry, you don't have a quarterback right now in Seattle, you're going to go defense? Okay. All right. I mean, I guess we all can't do the same thing, right?
I'm actually a big Vrabel fan. And he's kind of got that Belichick thing down, right? He's fiery. He seems to have the pulse of his players. I think Mike Vrabel would bring an energy, maybe a very, not quite to the Pete Carroll level, but I think that he would be able to turn the franchise around. I would trust him more going forward than bringing in the guy that was the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys that on a defense that didn't look quite that well their last game. And you just pushed out the greatest head coach in the history of your franchise because, one, I think you thought you were going to make the argument he was getting up there in years, and two, you thought he was a defensive-minded coach who the era or the current football had passed him by. Why would you bring the guy who was up under him and part of that success, but again, a defensive-minded coach, but the disciple to Pete Carroll? If Pete Carroll's not good enough to be your coach, the guy under him isn't any better. He's not an upgrade, certainly not. So I don't understand that way of thinking. And maybe they might end up interviewing Mike Vrabel, but I would look to younger, brighter guys. Why not look at Eric Bieniemy? Here's the thing about Eric Bieniemy, and I don't know if you heard this, Chris, but I've read it, and maybe it's being said that he doesn't interview well.
Yep.
And when I hear that, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I'm just going outside the box. Maybe Bieniemy's problem isn't his vision for your team or what he can do for your quarterback. He may or may not be the most articulate person, right? If you know the guy is a winner, if you know he knows what he's doing, if you look at his track record, why would you pause to give him an opportunity to be your head coach? Like, everybody's not going to sound like Bill Walsh. Everybody's not going to sound like Andy Reid when they break things down. Every coach is different. I guarantee you, the coach of the Jets, Saleh, we don't think of him as a great strategist, and he's a young coach, but I think Saleh's more known for being more of a motivator, right? He's more of a player's coach in that way. And I'm not saying that as a negative, but it's strange that Eric Bieniemy has interviewed at multiple places, and it's not one of those things where we looked into his history and he's got it isn't anything like that. They're saying literally they sit him down in the interview process and they're not wowed. Maybe he doesn't wow you, but I would say look at his track record, look at who he's worked with, and look, even this past season, the Washington offense, it wasn't a bad offense. What they were doing they were being productive around a quarterback who is inconsistent at times. So I wonder how we're not ready. Why the NFL is so, what is the word? They're really resistant to younger coaches coming in. Like, we have younger coaches, but why hold up a Vrabel who's already established himself? He's already got his own brand. Or why hold up a Bieniemy when they've proven they know what they're doing?
Mo, I think the issue there, and I think we can, everyone who's listening, I think we can all attest to this. We have all worked in jobs where you have a coworker and you literally think to yourself, how the hell did you get hired? You are like literally the biggest waste of human space that I've ever seen in my life. Like, how did you get here? How did you get past the interview process? And a lot of times the answer is they're really good at interviews. They're really good at talking to you. They walk into a room and they're engaging. And as oftentimes happens in business, you have these people who go out there and their job is to hire people. Their job is to interview people. And oftentimes they are captivated by the person with the big personality. And things start to slide away from being focused on the job. And now you're like, oh my God, they're so entertaining. They're electric. They're great to talk to. They have such great energy, all that tangible stuff. And you start to get away from the actual job stuff. And then you hire them and you put them in the job. And the job stuff was never really there to begin with, but they're a great person to talk to. And now they're in there in the grind with other people who are in the grind. And they're like, you don't belong here. How did you get here? I don't know about this. You look at someone like Eric Bieniemy, and he can't even get past that stage, right? You get him in the room, and you're like, ooh, okay. Right. And then you immediately have that trepidation because you're like, what if we make him the guy? And now we're like the regular weekly joke on the NFL shows because he's stumbling and bumbling in front of the media, or he's just looking a mess when he has to do his weekly press conference. Like what if we get ourselves in that situation? And maybe he's kind of getting that label of great number two. Great as a number two, leading the offense, all that stuff that he's good at, the offensive vision, the play calling, the helping put an offensive scheme together. He can do all of that as an offensive coordinator, and all the stuff that we're like, about that a head coach would have to do. Let's not even have that conversation. If he stays offensive coordinator, he doesn't have to do any of that.
Right.
So we put him where he's the strongest.
I get it.
And we excel his strengths, and the stuff that we're seeing in the interview where we're like, I don't know about that. We don't even have to let him do that. And that sucks if you're Eric Bieniemy. If that's the case. If that's the case where you just don't interview well, and maybe you stumble over your answers, and maybe you're not answering things the way they want, the head coach of a team to answer things, because, by the way, he's never been a head coach. So how does someone who has never done the job have all the right answers for the job they've never done, right? Like, that's an unfair proposition. So I look at that and I say, man, I kind of agree with you, Mo. If the track record speaks for itself, if people like Tyreek Hill go back and play Kansas City, and go back and play Washington, and one of the first guys they're looking for is Eric Bieniemy, because he's like, this dude is part of the reason why I am where I am today. Doesn't that speak volumes about what he can do as a coach? Doesn't that speak volumes about how respected he is by elite talent in the NFL? I think it does. But again, and this is where the PR side of it comes in. People kind of want the funny, the easy to talk to guy. Winning's important. Don't get me wrong. Winning is absolutely important. But at the same time, if you're looking at three guys and you think they can all get you to where you want to go, they're not going to take the guy that might be socially awkward, or that might bumble over his words, or might not be the best communicator. If the other two guys got that and he doesn't, it sucks. He's going to get overlooked every time.
I think you hit the nail on the head. He's not a great salesman of himself.
Correct.
Right? That's
At least that's what we're hearing.
And that's what I'm hearing. Like you said, a guy comes in and that lights up the room, is electric, and he can sell you, and he sells front offices on who he is. Like you said, never mind what kind of coach he will be, what vision he has for the franchise, but you're just caught up in him. Think about all the, we were talking about this the other day, and I think the guys were talking about last night that look at some of the disciples from certain coaching trees and the struggles they've had, but they've gotten repeated opportunities. Think about some of Bill Belichick's disciples who've had multiple opportunities. They just haven't done well. Mm-hmm. What you found out about them is they're good coordinators. They're not all cut out to be head coaches. And look, anybody that's listening out there, and again, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. That may be the case with Eric Bieniemy, but we won't know till we know. Like, correct. He actually needs to get the actual opportunity to fail so someone can go, well, there it is. I told you, he's really just he's a coordinator. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's his ceiling. I think it really comes down to Eric Bieniemy. My guess is he strikes me as the kind of guy that when you're having a conversation with him, he gives you short, direct answers. And there's no flash, there's no show. He probably doesn't crack jokes. He's not as engaging. And that doesn't wow front offices in an interview.
And Mo, let's be honest. I don't know if Bill Belichick wows in an interview. But right. but think about this. Let's say let's revisionist history here. Let's go back to the early 2000s. The Tuck rule doesn't happen. There is a good possibility Bill Belichick is fired from the New England Patriots shortly thereafter. Okay. How does he interview for his next job? Just fired from the Patriots. Didn't have a lot of success. Like the resume when you're Bill Belichick does all the talking for you. Bill doesn't need to say a damn word. He just needs to walk in and ask what questions he wants to ask, right? Just like when you're a disciple of Bill Belichick, as long as you're competent in an interview, the fact that you are on the Bill Belichick tree, that's why you're there. That's why you're there in the first place. And a lot of these offensive coordinators, like a Ben Johnson, for example, his work is speaking for him. As long as he can go into an interview and he doesn't say anything where you're like, whoa, what did you just say? His work is speaking for him because he's been successful. But you look at a personality of a Bill Belichick, had the Patriots been a failed stop along the way, whatever he went to next, well, Bill, it didn't go great in Cleveland and didn't really go well in New England either. You know, you have Bledsoe, you didn't have Bledsoe, the backup Brady, he didn't do much, couple of losing seasons, and now you want to be the head coach here. I don't know. Could a younger Bill Belichick be a salesman? I mean, we've seen older Bill Belichick kind of have that I don't want to talk to you, leave me alone, short answers and press conferences. I don't know what a younger, looser, I need this job Bill looks like, but it would be interesting to see.
You make a great point.
If he was that guy. Was he the I can sell myself? Because at that point, his resume isn't really selling himself, so he has to. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
I think that's a great point of view. Because obviously he is part of the Parcells tree, right? It rains down like that. And as a defensive coordinator, he did win 2 Super Bowls, right?
Correct.
You do get credit for that. That is on your resume. And so,
and you could, like I would say, that's how the Patriots job might have come to be, being a Parcells disciple, being a great defensive coordinator with those championships. Right. That kind of speaks for yourself heading into the Patriots job. But then if the Patriots job fails, the next job is going to be like, it's great, but what happened in New England?
Exactly. They're going to say, yeah, Bill, we know you won a couple Super Bowls, but we don't want to gloss over how that thing in New England didn't work. So what is your vision for our franchise? And like you said, he probably isn't the greatest salesman either. Not at that time, right?
Right.
Not at that early in his career. And that's amazing because you're right. careers could go so many different directions. If Bill Belichick fails, or you're right, no tuck rule, and he's out on his ass, and he goes to interview again, they're going to be like, look, you're a great defensive coordinator. We actually brought you in to ask you if you consider doing. I mean, it could have changed so much. Fast forward to where we are today, and he's won 6 Super Bowls.
Right. And it could have been he could have had a hard time getting a job. Like, it's crazy to think about that stuff. And I'm not saying that, Eric Bieniemy is on the precipice of winning 6 titles if he gets a head coaching job.
Right.
But Mo, we don't know. We don't know. We didn't know who Tom Brady was until he had a chance to be a starting quarterback. It is Mo, it is nowhere out of the realm of possibility that Brady started that year and Belichick was just like, he did great filling in, but we're going to go in a different direction. And then who knows? Who knows at that point, right?
That's a great point.
Who knows?
That's a great point. If Belichick goes, he was pretty good. He ran. I mean, he called the plays we wanted, but we're actually going to bring Bledsoe back. So, because we trust Drew. Drew's our guy.
Right. Do you see Mason Rudolph being a starting quarterback next season? Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm not saying he's the next Tom Brady, but Mason Rudolph stepped in. He played great. He won some games. He got him to you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same, but it's in the conversation. And I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be like, oh, we got to go with Mason now. They're going to be like, no, we're thank you, Mason, but we're going to go in a different direction. And had Belichick done that with Bledsoe or somebody else, who knows where Tom Brady ends? Like, it's such an interesting conversation to have.
It is. And look, the current version of Bill Belichick walks into the Atlanta interview, and he's the most cockiest, most comfortable guy in the room, right? Yes. He's interviewing for their head coaching job, but he's actually like the college football player where he's like, right. So what can you guys do for me? Because this Correct. Is what you already know what I've done. Like, I'm not going to give you a lot. Like, the resume, just read it. Yep. You know what I'm doing. What can you do for me? How can we make this a partnership that's beneficial to both of us? Like, he can walk into a room with that kind of arrogance, and it's a deserved arrogance. So I understand that. All I'm talking about is why don't we give some of these younger guys like Eric Bieniemy a chance? Look, a chance to fail. Put it that way, an opportunity to fail. He might very well be what they think he is, and ends up spending his career, which isn't a bad thing, as a great coordinator. Or he might turn around. What if he turns around and he's a guy who wins 1 Super Bowl, but the team is like always a contender over a period of a decade? That will not warrant that he's actually a damn good football coach. We won't know until you actually look at him and give them the opportunity.
I agree, Mo. All right, let's jump into game predictions. Division weekend is upon us. We are down to the final 4 teams in each of the conferences. Let's get right into it. First thing up, we have tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. The Texans and the Ravens are going to kick off the divisional round. Mo, on paper, it should be the Ravens. It should absolutely be the Ravens in every sense of the word. I think the Texans haven't had a great season. I think the Texans are playing a little bit above their skis with their rookie quarterback and their rookie head coach. I think the Texans are definitely going to come back to earth a little bit next season when you have a full season of tape on the scheme and the quarterback, like we see so often with rookie quarterbacks who pop year 1. They usually digress a little bit year 2, and then we find out where they actually are year 3. And I think we're going to see the same thing with CJ Stroud. That being said, Mo, the only thing, and I'm going to pick the Ravens here because I think it's going to be a blowout. But I will say this. If the game is close, if it is a 1-score game, I think the Texans win the game. And the reason behind that is, and Ravens fans can tell me until they're blue in the face, pressure doesn't matter. Quarterbacks don't think about this. BS. Lamar Jackson knows he's 1-3 in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson knows that he's about to be a 2-time NFL MVP, and he has never been to a conference championship game. If this game is close late in the fourth quarter, Lamar Jackson is going to press. And when in his career, when Lamar Jackson presses, that's where he makes mistakes. I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Ravens are going to blow them out. But if this is a close game late in the fourth quarter, Mo, I think we could see an upset.
Everything points to the Ravens beating the Texans. And I'm going off of the fact of what they've done throughout the regular season against the better teams. They have shut them down and destroyed them, including my team. So if it's just as simple as they walk into the game, they dominate the Texans, relax, and get ready for the conference championship, I'm with you. If they go in there and they just knock them out and establish right away, this is not going to be a contest, I'm with you. But I'm also with you on this. I said this last night, if it's close, CJ Stroud's his team will win. If it comes down to both defense have been stout, there is no running game, and it comes down to who can get a drive or who can make a play, I'm going to say that the rookie who's a better thrower of the football already than Lamar Jackson is. Now you're right, he may come back down to earth year 2, but I think he's just a really talented thrower of the football. In terms of dissecting defenses, he seems to be as good or better than Lamar Jackson at that right now. Right now. They said he struggled against man coverage, and he ate Cleveland alive when they went to man. They tried to play a lot of zone, they thought, because this guy is beating man, and he picked their zone apart. Now, to be fair, the Texans' offensive line, it looked like the greatest offensive line in football that game. You did not hear Myles Garrett name called. You wouldn't have known he played. We're talking about I think they were the number 1 defense coming in and a non-factor versus the Texans. So when I look at the matchup, if I'm making a pick and I don't want to do the hedge your bet pick, my gut instinct says the Ravens are going to win. Everything points to the Ravens winning. But I'm going to go against my gut, and I'm going to say the Texans pull off an upset.
I like it. I like it a lot. Tomorrow night, we have the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. I unequivocally feel the Niners are going to destroy the Packers in this game. And I know as a Niners fan, you probably are going to pick them to win, but you're not going to call it a rout. But Mo, I will say it for you. I think the Packers are going to get destroyed. I think everything aligned for the Green Bay Packers last week against Dallas. I think they played the best they could possibly play on offense. And I'm going to stop there because let's not forget, Mo, the defense didn't play well. The defense had big moments. The defense had big plays. The defense still gave up 30-plus points in a game situation where the Dallas Cowboys were trying to get back into the game. It was a game situation where the defense needed to make stops. It's not like they went up 47-3 and then Dallas was just, dinking and dunking and slowly scoring touchdowns throughout the game. But the entire game, they basically had a 7-score lead. So the defense didn't really care. They just wanted time coming off the clock.
Right.
No, that wasn't the case. You're talking Dallas was cutting into it. Dallas was getting it down from 4 scores to 3 scores to 2 scores. And the one thing that was bailing out Green Bay was their offense was keeping pace with the Dallas offense. So Dallas would cut it, and then it looks like they're back in the game, and then Green Bay scores, and they expand the lead again. Nowhere in that conversation was the Green Bay defense locking down the Cowboys offense and them putting the stop on the comeback. The Green Bay offense put the stop on the comeback. So Green Bay fans, I'm sorry. Last week was the feel-good week. Coming in, the feel-goods are all over now. The Niners have a better defense. You are not going to do to the Niners defense what you did to the Dallas Cowboys defense. The Niners have a better coach. He's had a week extra to prepare for this game. You are going to see things on both sides of the football that you have not seen on tape while you were preparing for this game. That is what Kyle Shanahan does. You are going to see things you were not prepared for, and you are going to have to adjust on the fly. That is what a Shanahan team does to you. That is what the Niners are going to do to the Packers. I would love to say it's going to be close early. I don't even think that, Mo. I think you're looking at a 31-10, a 38-13 game. I just don't think it's going to be close.
I think it could be close early. This is what my thought process is, but when I say close, I mean like maybe at the half, it's a 13-7 game. And I think that in the second half, the Niners pull away. And that's me being humble and modest, right? I don't want to just go, they're gonna boat ride them. I don't know that. What I do know is this: if both teams play at their optimal, their very best, now you're talking about the Packers maybe putting up 21, 24 points. But if they play at their very best, then you're talking about the Niners offense putting up 40 plus points.
Correct.
And I'm just being real. I don't think Green Bay's defense can stop the 49ers offense. I think that Green Bay's offense is capable of putting it together a couple of drives. So they may put up 14, 17 points, but I think the Niners are going to put up 28 or 31 or 35 points. So obviously I think the Niners are going to win the football game.
And I don't think they're going to have an answer for Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey was healthy towards the end of the season. He's had a couple weeks to rest. I think we are going to see a very gamely version of Christian McCaffrey in this game. So, yeah. Sunday, we got a couple more matchups. Sunday, we're looking at the early game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. Mo, you've been given the opportunity to come back aboard the Baker train. Are you going to accept the ticket to come back aboard, or are you going to remain off of the Baker train, and are you going to jump on the Detroit train?
I'm so much back on the Baker train.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it might be a wasted purchase. I actually went out, and I can't find it. I was going to wear it this morning. I went out and bought a Buccaneers hoodie.
As you should have.
I was going to I had a hat, the whole, mind you, I'm not a Buccaneers fan.
That's okay.
But I'm a football fan, and I'm actually a fan of Baker Mayfield's. So, yes, I am back on the Baker train. And look, hey, whoever's on the train, forgive me. I let those Eagles, and look, I've bet on the Eagles a lot this season. So if you look at how much I bet on them, the last 7 games I bet on them, I've lost a lot. Because I kept going, they're going to get it together. They're going to pull it together. Look at the talent. And it didn't happen. And I know everything is pointing to Detroit going to the conference championship. The game is in Detroit. You can look at what they did offensively the previous week. But you know what? I think Todd Bowles, he may disguise it a little bit better, but I think he's going to blitz Jared Goff 60-65% of the game. Mm-hmm. Why do you say that? I say that because Jared Goff is a good quarterback, but he's a rhythm quarterback. And if you make him move to the left or to the right, he's a different quarterback. I'm just telling you. He in many ways he is a much younger version of Joe Flacco. If you make him move, he's different already. If you get him to where he's throwing on the run, he's not nearly as good or as accurate. I think Todd Bowles is going to send the farm after him defensively, but more importantly, I think offensively, I think you're going to get great games from Mike Evans and from Baker Mayfield, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit. So I'm going with the Buccaneers for the upset.
I think I know every team has laid eggs this season. I know that every team, Tampa Bay included, right? But the hype around Detroit as being this powerhouse that doesn't have flaws is simply inaccurate. They're a good team. And when everything is working, they are hard to beat. But Detroit has played some terrible football games this season. And I'm not talking terrible football games in September. I'm talking terrible football games after Thanksgiving. I'm talking about football games in December, even some of which they won, where you were like, oh my God, like that was How did they let that team stay in the game? How are they down 14 points late to that team? That defense has those moments. That offense has moments where Jared Goff is a little turnover prone. Now, everything I say about the Lions, you can absolutely say about the Buccaneers. But my point here, Mo, is these teams are a lot more alike than people are thinking. And that is where the narrative gets a little distorted because of what took place last week. First playoff win in 30 plus years, knocking off Matthew Stafford, all the hype and the good feelings in Detroit. I get it, but don't be a prisoner of the moment, because at the end of the day, this is still a flawed Detroit Lions team. And what I'm looking at is for everything that Detroit did last week, they also didn't score a touchdown in the second half of that football game. So you're looking at a team that offense went dry in the second half of that game. You're also looking at a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that probably could have put 50 up on the Eagles had they been able to hang on to the damn football. And even playing a sloppy game, they still blew out the Eagles. Their defense was still electric. And their top two playmakers weren't really that involved.
Right.
So we saw the Buccaneers last week blow a team out where a lot of things didn't go right for them. A lot of things on the offensive side of the ball didn't go right for them. And they still blew them out. And it wasn't defensive touchdowns that they were scoring and special teams touchdowns. The offense was still scoring. It just wasn't the way we thought it was going to be. And you're looking at a Detroit Lions team look great in the first half. Then the Rams defense buckled up a little bit, and they didn't look like the same team in the second half. And I think the Buccaneers and Todd Bowles saw that. And I think, like you said, Mo, they're going to bring the house in the first quarter. And the Lions better be ready for it, and they better be able to adjust to it, and they better not let themselves get into a hole 7-0, 10-0 in the first quarter, 13-3, anything like that. Because if the blitz starts hitting in the first quarter, they're just going to ramp it up from there. Because once you get Goff off a little bit, you just keep hammering, and good things are going to happen for the other team. I'm going the Buccaneers here. I know it's going to be an upset because the Lions are almost a 7-point favorite, but I think these teams are a lot closer than people realize, and I think that's what we're going to see on Sunday when the Buccaneers punch their ticket to the NFC Championship game.
That's insane.
Good for Baker. Good for Baker. Last game of the weekend, we're talking Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs. This might be the best game of the weekend. Like we talked about yesterday, all the pressure in the world is on Josh Allen in this game. Like you said yesterday, Mo, how can Josh Allen, after the season that he's had, where in the end, they still get to where they were supposed to get to. They still win the division. They still have a top seed in the playoffs. The playoffs are still going through Buffalo up to this point. How can he let Patrick Mahomes, going on the road, something he rarely had to do in his playoff career, come into his house that his fans just shoveled, baby? How can he allow that guy to go into there with that team and beat them? Most would say he can't, and he won't. But I'm going to tell you he will. This is a moment for Patrick Mahomes. You want to say things like, Chris, he's accomplished it all. This is just a playoff game for him. No, it's not. This is a new chapter for Patrick Mahomes. This is Patrick Mahomes going into somebody else's house where he is not the favorite, where it's Josh Allen's time to shine now. This is Josh Allen's moment to get the Bills back to an AFC Championship game. Patrick is going to revel in this opportunity. He's going to look at this and say, man, you're not better than me, Josh. You're not better than me. I am the guy. I am the gatekeeper here in the AFC. It goes through me, and you're not getting by me. And I think they win, Mo. And I think it's close. I don't think it's a blowout either way. I think it comes down to a heartbreaking last possession for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm going with Mahomes.
I'm going with Mahomes as well because I think Patrick Mahomes coming into this game, he wants this.
Needs it.
Of course, he'd love to win the Super Bowl and repeat, but he wants this. He's walking in there thinking, I'm not feeling any pressure. Josh Allen has all the pressure in the world on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it remains a close game, which I think it will, Patrick Mahomes is going to just be sitting there like, my moment is coming. I'm waiting. That moment's going to come. And I want to remind people the Kansas City defense is actually a very good defensive unit.
Yep.
They will find a way to make an opportunity if Josh Allen is sloppy with the football. And here's the thing: you can move the ball to some degree on the Chiefs, but the way to move against them, it is methodical. You have to be able to dink, and you have to show patience with your offense. Run the football, all that stuff. Can Josh Allen remain disciplined in a low-scoring, tight football game? My gut feeling is he can't. At some point, his instinct will kick in, and he puts that cape on, and it might not be needed, and a mistake will happen. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs walk into Buffalo and win. We're going to call it one of the great playoff games when it's all said and done, but they win. And the crazy part is, if I'm right on my predictions, you're going to have Patrick Mahomes back in the conference championship against a rookie quarterback.
On the road.
On the road.
Inside. Indoors.
Right. I'm just saying, in the most bizarre way, Chris, I can see a path back to the Super Bowl for a Chiefs team that I look at them offensively and the lack of explosive or talented people they have at the skill positions. They're going to be back. I think they're going to be back. At least at a minimum, they're going back to the conference championship.
The Buffalo they're going to try to run the ball. They've been committed to the run for the more than half of this season, right? So the difference between this week and last week, though, and I feel pretty good about this, they're not going to get the big chunk runs that they got against the Steelers last week. And that's where I'm interested to see what Buffalo does when it's only 2 yards on first down and it's not 6. Because it's easy to stick to the run when you're getting 5-6 yards a clip, and then every 5th or 6th run he breaks one for 13 or 14 yards. That's easy. That's easy to ride the run that way. But what happens when you're only getting 2 or 3 yards a run and you're getting stuffed every now and then? You can't let go of the run. You have to keep running the football.
Agreed.
And take your shots as they come. If you become a pass-first offense against this Kansas City Chiefs defense, they want that. They want to hit Josh Allen. They want Josh Allen to scramble so they can hit him. This is what this Chiefs defense is going to be welcoming. And Josh Allen's still going to run the ball, but they need to pick and choose their spots with it. Because the last thing you want is this Chiefs defense to start teeing off on Josh Allen, because you know how Josh Allen gets hyped when he gets a 10 or 15-yard run? Well, right. This Chiefs defense is going to get hyped when they stuff Josh Allen for 3 yards when he thought he had a first down and they pop him in the chest. They're going to start to get hyped. And that's not the momentum swing you're going to want to see. What Buffalo needs to do to win this game, they need to jump out to an early lead. They jump out to a 14-3 lead early, Buffalo's probably got this, because Kansas City doesn't have the firepower to strike quick. So if Buffalo jumps out early and then they can just go back and forth with Kansas City and hold serve, I think Buffalo's got it. But if it's a low-scoring game, if it's consistently a one-score game, I'm not picking against Mahomes. I refuse to do it until otherwise proven. And with what I've seen the last month of him, he believes, Mo. He honestly believes this team is going to go to a Super Bowl. And who the hell am I to say he's wrong until he's proven wrong?
What he's telling us, Chris, is this. He's saying that I hear all the noise about my receiving core and what we can't do. And I think he's saying to himself, I can put on that cape too. And I can make enough plays. Look, we may go into the second half of football and it might be a 9-7 game Buffalo. But if it's going to stay close like that, the reason why I'm picking the Chiefs is you're asking me to pick between those two in that kind of game. I'm going to always ride with Patrick Mahomes. I think you're right. The only way the Bills win this game, and I'm not, anybody listening, I'm not saying it's impossible. They would have to jump on Kansas City early, but after they jump on them early, they still would have to have sustained drives. They still would have to be very good. They can't jump on them early and then come out. Let's say they go to the half and they're up 13-3.
Like they did against the Steelers.
Right.
21-0. And then you look back a little bit later, 21-17. And you're like, well, wait a minute. They let them back in.
Right.
Can't do that against Patrick Mahomes.
100%. If you go to the half and you're up 13-3, that might feel good. That's not enough. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But if it is, great for us, the fans. Look, if it's a low-scoring game because of the magnitude and because of the two teams and the quarterbacks, it's still going to be a great game for us. Let me ask you this, Chris. If Buffalo loses, because I was thinking about this coming into the morning show, and for those in the chat, if Buffalo loses, isn't their coach, if you think about what they've done over the breadth of the last 3 or 4 seasons, what makes their coach any different from Mike McCarthy?
Nothing.
Well, you know what I mean? Like in a lot of ways, aren't they very similar if you think about it in terms of their recent success or lack thereof in the postseason? There's a similarity there. Now, obviously, McCarthy is a Super Bowl winning coach. But I'm talking about Mike McCarthy, the Dallas Cowboys head coach, versus what the Buffalo Bills, McDermott, has done. What's the difference?
And then the knock on Sean McDermott has always been, he can't get the offensive line right. He can't establish a consistent running game. A lot of that has to do with the offensive coordinators that Josh Allen is working with, which, again, is part of Sean McDermott's purview. He's not bringing in the right people to run the offense, which is not his side of the football. You have a quarterback in Josh Allen who, I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, he is an offensive coordinator killer, because for all the great things he does, he's also very sloppy with protecting the football. So he got Ken Dorsey fired because Ken Dorsey and him, I think, were a little buddy-buddy, and Ken Dorsey allowed Josh Allen to play the way Josh Allen wanted to play. I want to run the ball. I want to be Superman. I want to be that guy. And you can't, Josh, because when you are, bad things happen more often than good things happen. So they had to fire Dorsey and bring in someone that was okay, saying, no, Josh, you're not going to run the ball 15 times a game because we have running backs that do that. And that's what we pay them for. And you're not going to take a bunch of deep shots where you're throwing the ball across your body and throwing picks, even though he still does. But that is the offensive coordinator's job in Buffalo. And they've had one so far that was really good at it. His name is Brian Daboll. He is no longer there. He is the head coach of the New York Giants. When he was there, you saw the best version of Josh Allen. And that was paired with a really good defense, because that is McDermott's side of the football. And what did you see? You saw an AFC championship game with the Buffalo Bills. That's been their peak so far in this McDermott era in Buffalo. Since Daboll has left, and before Daboll and Allen clicked, you haven't seen that level of success. They've been in the conversation, and this is something that they talked about last night with Gene, coaching versus personnel. Buffalo has the personnel to be a good team. Coaching is what's going to take them to the next level. Agreed. So you look at the Buffalo Bills, they have the talent to be a playoff team, and they have been for the last 5 or 6 seasons. But when the personnel clicked with the coaching and vice versa, AFC Championship game. Not as many turnovers. MVP caliber Josh Allen. When it hasn't clicked, still a playoff team, still a really high ceiling, still a dangerous team that you don't want to see in the playoffs. But then the other side of it, you're like, well, we're gonna get a couple picks today, boys. We're gonna get a couple turnovers today.
Right.
And that's what we see. Now, granted, they played a flawless game for the most part against the Steelers as far as turnovers go.
Correct.
The defense still let Pittsburgh back into that game. But with Buffalo, the question is always, can they put 3 or 4 of these games together in a row? Because that's essentially what a playoff run has to be. It has to be 3 or 4 games where you're not making big mistakes. Everybody's playing at a high level. Impact plays are being made. And Buffalo, to their credit, check the box. They did part 1. Now they got to do part 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And if they do that, they got to do part 3 in the AFC Championship, which is where they failed previously in this regime. And if they do that, now we're talking Super Bowl, which is great. But once you get there, you want to win when you get there, right?
Right.
I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's what it is. It's a 4-game stretch where you need Josh Allen to be under control and not make the big mistakes. And essentially, Mo, play a 4-game stretch that he probably didn't play the entire season. And that's why I always criticize Josh Allen so much, is because you're essentially banking on him doing something in the playoffs that he doesn't do in the regular season just because it's the playoffs.
Right.
And for me, that doesn't make sense. He's a football player. He's going to play football. You get the good, you get the bad, you get the ugly, you get Josh Allen. And yeah, he can do what he did last week against Pittsburgh a few times, but he doesn't do it consistently. He doesn't do it 4 games in a row. And I'm not saying he can't. Look at Eli Manning. Eli Manning is the perfect example of a dude that can just put together 2 of the best 4-game stretches of his career, and it results in Super Bowl trophies. That dude did that. He is an example of not only can it be done, it can be done twice. Okay?
He's the blueprint.
Literally. So, of course, Josh Allen can do it, but I just feel like you're playing against the odds. And more often than not, the odds come out on top. And that's what we've seen so far with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Will it be the same? I don't know if it's going to be different this playoff run, Mo. Maybe it will be. But 1 game at a time. He's going to need to play another clean game, no turnovers against an aggressive defense in Kansas City that's going to open the door for him to make mistakes. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And by the way, Mo, defenses don't get any easier here on out. Houston's got a pretty good defense. Baltimore's got a pretty good defense. The Niners got a pretty good defense. He's going to see pretty good defenses from here on out if he keeps advancing. So that's the other side of it that we don't really talk about. You know, during the season, you might play a tough defense in San Francisco 1 week, but then you got Washington's defense the week after that. So you bounce back a little bit because the caliber you're playing against isn't that high level week after week after week, which is why, you know, you don't get 5 bad games in a row from Josh Allen during the season. He's not playing the same defensive talent week in and week out. In the playoffs, you are playing good defensive talent week in and week out. So it puts more pressure on you.
And maybe this weekend, these games might be summed up with that word. Which home team, or no, should I say, let's just say, which team can handle the pressures? Are Buffalo going to handle the pressure of Mahomes coming in there and everybody saying, you're not letting Mahomes come into our house and win? But there is pressure there. There's pressure for Lamar because of the success that he's had during the regular season. They've been the best team in football, but there's pressure for him in the bigger picture because he is going to be a 2-time MVP. They are favored to get to the conference championship, and I'm sure a lot of people think they'll win it all, but there's pressure. And as long as the Texans can stay attached to them, the pressure mounts. Same for Buffalo. If the Chiefs keep it close, or heaven forbid, Buffalo comes out unprepared or sloppy, and there's a turnover or two, and they find themselves, let's say, down at the half 13-0. Can they handle the pressure? It does matter. It is going to be a big factor in both of those games.
All right, Mo. Great Friday show. Close us out, sir.
Hey, chat, we appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank everybody who's watching us right now live, and those of you who watch us later on other devices. Check out all the great content we have to offer to you at Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Make sure you're back with us on Monday. We will break down everything that happened during the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Will it be the Baker train in the NFC Championship game? Who did the pressure get to? Who did it not get to? We'll talk about all of that and more Monday morning. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show, and we will see you on Monday.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, you guys any